Hey, so hello everyone. Welcome back to the session. Hope you're all able to hear me loud and clear. Yes, team, everyone. Can I just get a quick information, please, from everybody? Great, thank you. Thank you, team. Thank you all for the quick information. So I believe we can start with the session, right? Which window do I need to close here? I'm not really understanding, guys, which Zoom settings are we using here? The name window, where is the name window? That's my question is actually. The host windows. I seriously don't know, guys, because what you're speaking, I cannot see any such option on my screen. I think this is a setting from somebody. Have to control. I don't see that window. Sorry. Okay, so okay, are you talking a week and batch on the same topics other than this weekday? As of now, no things. Guys, there's nothing that I'm able to do with this. I'm not sure because some of you are seeing the window right? I'm not sure many of you are not seeing the window right, which means maybe some settings on your Zoom also needs to change, not just from my side. Other window, make it small. Yeah. Anyway, I'll check with the team again one more time. I really don't know how to do the Zoom settings because we or I never had any problem except for this batch because I deliver the everyday batches on the Zoom. In fact, after this session, I'm delivering some other session on the Zoom for other clients, but they never report that issue, but except this batch. So there is nothing that I can do from my side. Please understand that. Yeah, I tried the way, I don't know how did it happen. How did that happen yesterday after logout and login once it was good? So there is nothing I did, which means it is actually nothing that I'm doing it, something from the Zoom side. We need to check. Maybe I'll ask the team to check it. Maybe we'll have a better things for the next week. We'll see that, team. Just bear with me for today. We'll see that in the next week. Try to fix it mostly. Okay. So bear with us, team, everything. Maybe I'll check the recording one more time and I'll see how bad it is. Then we can do it. I cannot see that, even I can share the, FC to everybody. Yeah, we'll continue. Not a problem here, but I'm just telling that. Yeah, team, we are continuing. We are continuing. No worries. Right. So, okay, team, I believe we can start with the session today. Those who are seeing a screen very small, maybe try to squeeze it to the other side. That's what you can do right now. Thank you. So, team, let's start with the session, right? I think just for a quick recap again. All right. So yesterday, team, we were working on a couple of Jenkins administration tasks, administration activities, which is like the Jenkins security, where we tried understanding about how do we give various users with the various level of permissions, and then you all were able to create and log into the accounts, which we did it. So that's what the initial topic we did, team, how to configure using the global security, how to manage users from the scene, manage Jenkins page and everything. We tried understanding. Then after that, team, we also tried understanding about how do we, do the, the master agent configuration, which is one important thing that we do as well in the real time to, not to disturb, like when you have too many jobs running, when you have too many pipelines created on a single Jenkins server, to ensure that one pipeline would not disturb other one, we may choose the different agent machines where we will try to run them. So that's what we were trying to understanding how to, set up an agent and how to connect it with master, and then how we can ask master to delegate the work onto the agent machine so that it would use the agent resources as well accordingly. So this was the two important topic, team, that we understood yesterday on the Jenkins side. Now, as I said, team, once we understood these topics, the next topic today we want to discuss is about how do we deploy an application, right? Whatever the application that we built, team, it is like the package, right? Now the package is where, team, we got some deployable artifact or a deployable file. If I go to the workspace under the target folder, where you will find the war file, team, which will be there as this one, the last file that you see that. So you can just click on it, team. It will even download it into your own personal laptop, even it is from that. So it will be in my downloads now where it has it. But how do we take this application and then how do we actually deploy this application in this scenario? Right, team, again, the purpose of all these things we are trying to do, right? We are trying to build the application. So we took the GitHub team source code where we have it. Then we tried understanding the scenario about how to build code, how to automate the build code with Maven and the Jenkins as a scenario. Now in this situation, team, we said like we followed some build code process from compile, right? This is what I do it. Now the last step in your build pipeline, team, is the package. Now you may execute various stages, depends on your project requirement, team, but the final stage, the final goal in a build code process is to get a deployable package. Now in our case, it is the sample app war file is what we call it, right? So technically, team, now the understanding, as we said, we would like to take this war file and we deploy it in the dev server or maybe the QA, right? This war file needs to be deployed into the various servers for testing before we deliver it to the client. And finally, you might want to put it into an environment like the production, right? So remember, team, there are different environments we have it, right? So this is the idea, team. So this is a QA server, you may call it, and this is your production server, right? So the understanding today, team, we are going to understand about how do we deploy this war file manually into any one server at least. Then later we understood what we will do next. So this is the first task for today, team. So how to deploy a web application in a server if I've given to you. So does anybody know how do we deploy the web applications, team? And how do we access it from the server again? Yes, everybody. Do you guys know how to deploy the web application now? Okay, so like we discussed on the day one, team, if you remember when we talked about the different server and what is an application and the application types, like we talked about the desktop application, then we also talked about the web applications. Now in that scenario, team, I already told you once that we need a web server, right? We need a web server to deploy some web applications. That is what the idea is. So the idea here is that again, there are many web servers available in the market. You may use different things like IIS with another one. You have Apache, you have Nginx, you have Tomcat, and so on. Just like think about it, like whenever you want to play a movie on your laptop, think about that you have a different players, right? QuickTime, Media, whatever the players you use. This is an again, this is what we need to do it. So assume that if you are given a server again, right, with certain operating system, with a virtual machine, you may think about it. I'll be using mostly this one team, right? So this is the idea. So how are we going to, once you have a server team, if I have to install or if I want to deploy this web application, now you have to install the necessary dependencies again before you deploy. So this is a plain server team, remember, in which I would like to, run my web application. Then before you do that, we need to install the necessary dependencies, say, such as Tomcat. And since we're also running a Java-based application team, so we will also have to install the Java in this scenario. That is what we are trying to look for. So we're going to take a server now, right? We will create maybe one another server, EC2, and then we start, deploying or installing these things. I'll share all those instructions to you all team. So, but this is the idea. So for that scenario team, say that now I'll move on to this one, the AWS console. Not necessarily you may use the existing VMs, but I would like to show you that if you have a different VM, then how do you do that? So I'll try to create a new EC2 instance with same configuration, and I name it as the dev server, for example, right? So once you have a team, so I'll choose the same operating system, which is the Ubuntu. And then along with that, we should choose the instance type, which is T2 micro, which is going to be a free tier again, to not cross the limits of free tier. And the key pair to log into the server, the same key pair that we used on the day 2 we created. And similarly, the security group also we want to configure the same thing that we created on the day 2, which is the iPad in my case. That will allow you to log in to the server. That is the whole idea. Now, this is a simple basic server team that I'm creating. Remember, if you look at the summary, the number of instances I'm creating is 1. I'm using the Ubuntu Linux operating system to be running in my virtual machine. This is the capacity, which is T2 micro. And this is the firewall, and the storage default is this one. So I'll say launch instance. Now, this will take a minute team to launch the server, right? You may just go to the instances page by clicking on the view all instances at the bottom. Now, that will have a new server getting created. Now, once the server is there, once the server is actually, started, then I will show you about how to install the Tomcat, and then also about how do we install Java everything. So this server team is now up and running, right? I'll take this one, and then we will try to log in the same way we were logging into any other server. So I'm in my downloads folder team where I have the PEM file is present as well. So technically what I'm going to use is that SSH-i iPad, the same username again, and the IP address. So once this is up, you can just log in to the server like this. This is the way we have logged in successfully to the new server, the new virtual machine, which ends with 238. Remember that this is what the new virtual machine. Now within this machine team, remember again, as I told you now, we can switch to the root user, right? So the same thing team as we discussing here now, assume that you have a server called dev server, and within that you have the just a plain operating system right now. And then we need to install this Tomcat. We also need to install this particular Java on this one to ensure we can run the WAR file which we built it, right? So how do I install it again, team? For the installation of Java team, again, you may follow the same instruction we followed for setting up the Jenkins or anything, right? Like from the Jenkins installation folder, Now I'll show you the Tomcat installation as well. So install, and I see that here you have the install Java instructions. You know this team, the same instruction, let's follow again, because the same thing we followed in the Jenkins as well. If anybody is not able to follow me or anyone is not able to understand something, team, please try to raise your questions. But otherwise, team, we just doing the same that we did the day before yesterday, just installation of Java first of all. And let's say that we are running this command, which will install the Java 11 on my dev server now, the third server that we created. Now, once we have, done this one team, right? Once the Java is installed, the next thing is to install a Tomcat like web server, right? So go here, team, again. I do not have them documented, team, but I'll document later. Say here, what I will do is that, team, you can choose any version of Java, Raju, depends on your project. The source code repository which I'm using supports the Java 11. That is the reason I'm installing the JDK 11. Okay, that is the only reason. If your project needs some sort of the specific Java version, then you may have to install that specific version accordingly. Okay, makes sense? Yeah, that depends on the application you built. The Java application, the Java source code given by the developers, say that they write the code depends on the versions of Java as well. So from my case, the Java sample Java app repository supports Java 11. So we write it. Now, once we have installed the Java on our third server team, which is this particular server now, where we have a Java 11 successfully installed. Now, the next thing is that team, we want to install the Tomcat. So what I'm doing, team, I'm going to the Google and I say that the download Tomcat, right? It is very simple, team. When you do download Tomcat, again, it goes to the default Apache tomcat.apache.org page. So if I go with this one, now you find the different versions of the Tomcat team, like Tomcat 8, 9, 10, 11 is in the alpha phase, whatever it is. But the default suggestion it is giving from this page is the 9073 version, the default version it is using it. Now, if you want a specific version, then you can go with this archives. The archives will give you the all different versions of Tomcat available in the 9 series. 9.73 is the last that you see it. The different versions, if you want it, don't. But let's stick to this one team, a 9073 version. If I want to download theme, there is a downloads available at the bottom, the binary distributions for this Tomcat software. So in this one team, we are trying to install it on the Linux machine. So I'll follow this tar.zz, which is the Linux binary. If you would like to install on the Windows, whether it's 32-bit or Windows 64-bit, you may use this one, or you may take the Windows installer package whenever you want it. So what I will do, team, if you click on them, team, it will download to your local actually, but I want to download this into my Linux. So technically I'll say a copy link address, right click on this link and then say copy this link address. Now, once you do a copy link, now come back to your server and then execute a command like wget and then paste the link that you copied there on the browser. Now, when you do this one, team, the wget is a Linux command that help you download a file from the URLs. Now you see that once I ran this command, it downloaded my Apache Tomcat. It's a zip file, team, just like you have a zip on the Windows. It is the tar.zz here. Now you need to extract, team. The Tomcat installation is nothing but it is ready to use software actually. So if you extract this particular zip file, then it becomes the installation is done. And also, team, when you extract it, there are two options. You find it always. It is like extract here, that is in the current directory which you set in, or maybe the extract to, like you choose a different directory from the location where you are. So we may use the same thing in Linux as well, team, but that is command line, like you do it, tar-xzf. So X is extract, Z is the zip file, I'm telling it, F is the file name, I'm going to provide it like this. Now, if I execute this much team, it will be extract here, which will be extracting within the current directory only. Now, sorry, team. So here, if I want to use or if I want to use an extract to a different directory, this is what you do. Now, what I'm trying to do here, extracting into a /opt folder from current folder, right? Current folder, you may call it. That is what it is doing it, not in the current folder, but extract into a different folder. Now, when I run this particular team, you can see that it is now extracted, right? You can go to the target directory, which is cd/opt. Now, where you might see that it is the Apache Tomcat directory that is present. Now, with the Apache installation team, which is Apache Tomcat installation, if you go inside, you find all the default binary, default software configurations are set and available here, right? So there are things team we need to do it. If you follow this directory stream, the different information about the software, there is a bin directory, there is a logs, there is also something called web apps. Now, this directory is default with Tomcat installation. You may understand it, right? We don't need to create one. Now, what I need to do if I want to deploy my web application in this Tomcat server, I just need to copy over my WAR file. Remember, there are some default things available. Now, deployment is nothing but team. You need to copy the WAR file. You need to copy the WAR file from the Jenkins machine, wherever it is. Remember, the WAR file is present on my Jenkins machine here. If you look into it, cd opt, I think this is a var lib Jenkins, right? Var lib Jenkins, the workspace package target folder. Now, where you see the WAR file here in this path. Now, I know team, it is copying from this to this. It will be difficult for you as of now. If you know mechanism, you do it. But the simple mechanism team, I'll show you here. The same thing again, the same approach we followed for the Tomcat binary. Let's say that I also right click here, right? Right click on the sample app WAR file. Now you say again, the copy link address. Now, if this works team, we don't need to do that. So I'm on my Tomcat server again here. Now you need to go to the web apps. Remember, within inside the web apps, let's download the WAR file, right? Whatever the WAR file that we have it, job package, wget, target, and sample app WAR file. I execute this one. What happens here? It says that connected, HTTP request sent, awaiting response. Oh, it is getting an authorization issue team. 403 forbidden means you are not authorized to get that particular thing. Okay, so I don't want to make this complex team. Let's keep it like that. Right, so let's replace the private IP. Maybe we'll see if that is going to work in that URL, because the public IPs may be something having a problem. Okay, it is gone. So let me replace with the private IP team. Let's see that. This is the sample, right? Yeah. Or we will try to use a different command team that we will try to check it. Just give me a second. And let's try without again. Okay, it's still forbidden team. Let me say that here with curl command. We just want, we'll see if this is going to work, then we can proceed. No, this is also, it says that authentication required team. That is one, it says that. I think we downloaded one file yesterday, Tim, right? The agent.jar file. Let me check what was the command we used there. Just for your understanding, team, let's say that let's log into this VM2. We were downloading the agent.jar file yesterday from the master instance. If you remember that, the same approach, let's follow that maybe. If it is not working, I'll show you some other alternative, but I'm trying to keep things simple. So this is the agent VM team yesterday where we were running the agent yesterday, right? I think it followed something called curl-so, something like this. So let's use this instruction instead of that one. It should work. Otherwise, we'll try the one. So here I just see that curl-so and then get this one. If this is still not working, let's go with some other approach. So one last instruction I'll try. Okay, it seems that it is not throwing any errors. Okay, it downloaded, but I think something is wrong here. The size is wrong theme again. Say that 627 is not the right size actually. The file size is supposed to be the around 16 MB of size. Okay, so anyway, team, this is not working because of some authorization issues. So I'll fix that later maybe, but let's do one thing, right? Let's follow the different approach that we can do that here. Let's download this WAR file to the local machine, then we will try to copy over to the other machine. So if I click on this one team, as you already saw, this downloads the, this downloads the WAR file into your local Mac downloads folder, right? So if I go to the downloads folder on my system, right, here is the downloads. Now where you see team, there is a sample app WAR file is now downloaded into my local file system, and this is my local Mac downloads folder. Now I need to copy this file team from my local machine to the remote Linux machine, this one, the dev server, right? Now, how do I copy that theme? How do you copy something from your one machine to other machine? Do you guys know that? Now, this is my local Mac downloads folder team here. If I do ls-l, the sample app WAR file, that the sample app WAR file is available in my local. Either you may use a WinSCP or SCP commands team. The SCP is a simple command that you can use either on a Windows or Linux machine. So let me show you how to do that. Now here team SCP -I, the credentials to log into the remote server is iPad. And then you give the sample app WAR file. Remember team, the same command you are using with SSH. Remember, SSH will log you in. Now the SCP will help you copy the files. So SCP-I, the PEM file to log into the server and the file to be copied. And here you need to use the Ubuntu at the IP address of your dev server, which is the one you do it. SCP is a secure copy, Shweta, help you copy the file from one server to other server, one computer to other computer. That's what I'm trying to do. SCP is secure copy, right? And you also have to give the path, right? The path on dev server, you may call it. And remember, this is just a message I'm writing it. Let's say that I want to copy into this /tmp folder. Where I'm trying to copy team here, I'm trying to copy on the tmp folder in my Tomcat server. As of now, you don't see the file is present on my tmp folder on the dev server. Now, if I run this command like scp, the command and this one, let's say that it is going to copy the file for me. Like you see team, it is trying to copy the file from my local machine to the remote machine. Now it is around 16 MB team, as you can see that it is simply copied. Now, once it is copied team, let's go back to the Tomcat server or the dev server and do ls-l. Now you see this team, the file is now present under my temp folder. Now what I'm going to do that, we can simply move this file into this one. So move temp sample app war file to the OPT Apache Tomcat web apps. You can use the SCP as well from the Windows machine, Amit, that works. Okay. Now, this is what you do it. The move the file from the temp folder to the Apache Tomcat web apps folder. That's what you do it, right? Now I'm going back to the OPT Apache Tomcat web apps directory. Now where I should see the file available. Now the simple thing, team, as we did right now, we just installed Java, we just installed Tomcat. Then we are finding the way to install the web app, nothing but you download the WAR file from the Jenkins console to your local laptop. And from your local laptop, we just copied file into the EC2 instance again with a command provided here. This is the one, right? So this is a command that would help you in copying the file to the remote. Now, I hope, team, I'm clear on this particular task now, right? Is there anyone confused or anyone needs any clarity on this particular thing right now? Are we all good now, team? Everybody? Any questions on whatever we did right now? So on my dev server team, we have successfully installed Java. We have successfully installed Tomcat. Then we also copied the WAR file in my Tomcat web apps directory. That is what we did. So team, everyone, am I clear until this particular point? Any questions here? Yes, team, is everyone clear? Can I just get a quick information, please? Okay. Not many of you are responding, team. Does that mean any confusion there? We are doing all manually. You need to know these manual steps, that what happens exactly, guys. Then later you can automate them. That is a different case, right? If you know manual, the automation will become easy. Yes, we will do the automation as well. I will also going to talk about the automation later. So first of all, I'm trying to give you the experience. If you do manual, you remember the things. Then you can write the automation scripts easily as well. So team, everyone, I'm requesting, is everyone good or any questions? Okay, Raju. Yeah, you have to do at least once, team. That will give you the ideas. So once we have, because it was under the temp directory, right? Guys, Upendra, we copied under the temp directory. The WAR file was present under the temp directory, but that is not how you deploy web application in Tomcat, right? To deploy this WAR file inside your Tomcat installation web apps folder, I used a move command. So I moved the file from temp folder to the Tomcat web apps folder. Now, if you copy the WAR file in a Tomcat web apps folder, that is only called as the application deployed to the Tomcat server, a Tomcat web server, you call it. Okay. Any other questions again? Now, once you have done web app installation in the Tomcat team, remember, you also need to start the Tomcat server, we call it. Remember that we need to start the Tomcat process, right? Which is very much important. How do I start my Tomcat process, team? You may go to the bin folder. Remember, again, under the Tomcat installation directory, there is another folder called bin. Now, the bin folder is where you actually can go ahead and then start the Tomcat process or start the web server. Like whenever you install something, you try to stop the services, right? Like your laptop also, sometimes you stop laptop, shut down the laptop and reboot the laptop, which may be required on certain installations, right? The same thing here. Once we did install anything inside a Tomcat web server, we need to restart, or we may want to start the Tomcat process again. Now, to do that, you have to go to the bin folder inside the Tomcat installation directory. that is given with the Tomcat installation. And all these are the scripts that are given as part of the Tomcat installation. So this is what we're doing it now. We can say that the bash startup.sh, right? Now this is what all we're trying to do, a bash startup.sh. The script is pre-given with the Tomcat installation. You just go ahead and do this. You execute a command like bash and startup.sh. It loads the Tomcat and also tells that the Tomcat is started by default. Okay. Now, if you see the Tomcat is running in your server, right? Grep Tomcat something. Now you do like this, right? So this is the Tomcat process team that is started and listening on your server by default. Now, if you have done with this, then we need to access this web server again from a browser. Remember, this web server again listens on a default port like 8080 always. So I go to my dev server IP address, right? Go to the browser, place your IP address, and the default port number is again 8080. When I hit the default 8080 team, you would see that it is the Tomcat page is launched, the default Tomcat page it says. But how do I access my application running within that particular Tomcat web server? Again, so this is the default Tomcat URL team. Now you see in the chat. Now, along with this, if I want to access the sample app application, which we deployed it, the sample app WAR file. Now take the name of the WAR file, whatever the name of the WAR file you have it. All right, this is the one, right? Sample app. Without the extension, just take the name, the sample app. And then in your browser, after the 8080, use a backslash and then give that name, right? Now, when you give that, you would see that the application is getting loaded in your browser. Now, this is the application you built, team. Remember, the source code that you saw on the GitHub is converted, and final output is this application, right? This is like a web application, like any website you see on the outside there. This is how we deploy the web applications, and this is how you can access them directly. The further steps is that team to enable the URLs. That's a different case, but this is the backend, the one you deploy and then you access it. This is a simple address book application team that we built, right? The sample Java application, which help you to search a contact which is already saved. It may help you add a new contact to the list if you want it. Something like this, save it. Now you see something about the narration. I'm given your things team. I should be able to save the name narration here. Now you may also edit an existing contact again, add the phone number thing, right? Save it again. So this is the idea team about this web application that we built. Like I see that few people are able to put their name as well. Now the understanding is that team, this is the web application that we built from a source code and we're running, and we are able to see the application is usable for us in the browser. Now, I hope this makes sense for everybody. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know on this topic. And this is very much important for all of you to understand, team, that how we actually perform an application deployment. What do you mean? How did you change it? What did we change here, Shweta? I have given you the second URL in the chat. If you look at it, up till 8080, it gives you the Tomcat page. And if you want to see this application page, put a /sample app that you see the URL in the chat window just above your message. Everyone should be able to access. Everyone should be able to access this website from your side as well, team. Just look into that. Is everyone able to access, team? Anything can run on 8080 Ashwin. You may configure the ports accordingly because they are running in two different servers. There will not be an issue, right? That is the idea. Ashwin, remember that the Jenkins is running on a different server, which is the VM, right? Jenkins is running on my VM1, which is using 8080. That's okay. Now the Tomcat is running on dev server, which is also running on 8080. That's okay. So we can configure the values according to the requirement. Now, what is the confusion here, Raju? It's a very simple thing that we did. If you look into this one in my server, there are two important things. We installed Tomcat under the OPT Apache Tomcat, right? The OPT Apache Tomcat, the Tomcat installation comes with the pre-installed directories like the web apps, correct? Now, this is the Tomcat installation directory. Can you see that, Raju? What is the confusion? This is the installation directory of my Tomcat, where you see all the Tomcat installation stuff came up. Now, within this one, you find a web apps folder. Now, inside the web apps is where I just copied that. Just like, remember, you have a VLC player is running, and inside the VLC player, you're running the movie. The same thing here. I just copied over my WAR file under the web apps directory, and then you started the Tomcat server. Just like you started playing the movie, click on the play button, then it starts playing, means it starts loading into the web server, and that allows me to access from the web browser. Yes, team. I'm trying to be as simple as possible, team, and this is a must required skill that everybody or every DevOps engineer should have it, right? I believe you're all able to follow me and able to understand this particular thing. So any questions on this? Now the deployment, manual deployment, we're talking completely manual deployment we did. We installed Java manually, we installed Tomcat manually, and we also talked about how to copy the WAR file from the Jenkins server to a target server. That's what we do. The approach may be different, team. The final goal is to copy your WAR file to the target server where you would like to run that WAR file as an application, right? So we copied it, and then we are trying to do that. You may call that way as well, Ashwin, right? .exe is a self-executable, but this is not a self-executable. It runs with the help of the web server, okay? Okay, everybody seems to be confused. Is that so, team, everyone? Even if you're confused, team, what I can tell you is that you just follow whatever I just said. Now, whatever I did as well, team, I'm going to share everything to you guys on the, I hope you're all able to follow me on the Google Drive as well, right? So technically, team, the Google Drive, which I shared with you all, how many of you are using it? So the Google Drive, team, which I shared with you, where you have the Jenkins folder as well, remember? So Jenkins maven, where you also have the class notes. Now, where whatever we are doing it, let's say I'm just copy pasting that again. Okay. So install web app on Tomcat. So these are the instructions, team. These things you may ignore it, right? So once you install this one, right, you need to copy the WAR file as well. Let me give you that command as well. So remember that copy the WAR file from local, right? Windows or Mac, your laptop, from local. Local in the sense, team, your laptop to the target server, right? So this is the command that he used it. And before that, download the WAR from the Jenkins UI. That is what you do it. Okay. How do I download that theme again? If you want me to add a screenshot there, I will do that, right? So this is the one theme that you do it here. Download this particular WAR file. Capture this and then see that I'm just putting the screenshot for you. Okay. So this is the idea theme. Remember that the way you can download it. So yes, SCP for Windows and Mac as well, but you need to use the mobile XTEM application on the Windows, right? I'm saying that to SCP, right, from Windows, use a mobile XTEM application, right, that you need to install and use it again. That is what I can tell you. Okay. So this is the idea team that everybody is now clear, I believe, on this one. Okay. So this is all about the way you can understand on everything. So this is the link team. The syntax will remain same thing, Raju, everybody. Okay. The syntax will remain same thing. If you install the mobile XTEM application, it will remain same. Again, if you're confused about the mobile XTEM installation, follow this document, right? I believe, team, you're following me from the day one. If you follow me from the day one, you should be able to do everything very simple and easy. That is what I can tell you. If you're not following, then it will become difficult, right? So you just have to follow everything what we're doing from the day one. So it will become easy for you to do that. So again, team, this is the link that will help you install the mobile XTEM application. So then use them accordingly. So I'm trying to share all the information what I can, team. It is all that you need to practice now. So please do practice. Okay. Is there any still confusion here, team, on this one? Or are we all good now about how to deploy and how to access the applications? Everybody, team, yeah, you all have to give the more time. The more you practice, the more you learn. So it's in your hands, team. I'm trying the best which I can do, as simple as things. Right. So team, with this one, team, let's say that we are now done with understanding on how to understand Git and Jenkins, how to build code, how to deploy applications manually. Now with this one, team, we'll close with the Jenkins topic. Then the next topic will be like we want to start on the configuration management with Ansible. Now, what is configuration management? Why configuration management? We will talk about it. What exactly those words mean, actually, we will try to understand. Okay. So let's take a short break maybe here before we move on to the next topic in our course. Everybody? Yeah. Let's take a short break for 5 minutes. We will be back in 5 minutes and we will start the things after 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, so hello everyone again. Welcome back to the session. And I hope that everybody is back. Can I just get a quick information, team? Is everyone back? Yes. Okay, great. Great team, and thank you so much for the quick confirmation. So now, team, let's start with the next topic, which is going to be the configuration management. Now, first of all, team, what is configuration management and why do we need it? How many of you heard the word called configuration management, first of all? Yes. How many of you heard about the word configuration management? No. Yes. CF engine, chef, puppet. Okay. No. Yes. Okay. So as many of you didn't understand, didn't even heard about it. And if you work in the real somewhere or the other way, you will hear that word actually. Terraform is not configuration management. Config management is different. So talking about the quick team, think about a situation. And just think about the situation now, what we had done just before, right? Now, the simple understanding team, remember, in order to deploy a application, now remember, we have a source code, we have the application ready. Now, we also understood about how to deploy the application into a server like we created today, right? So the question here is that team, in order to install or in order to deploy my web application in a single server, like I said now, first we create a server, but leave the create server part. Once a server is given to you, right? Now we need to install Java. That is the first task we did. Then we say download. I see that one, right? You also might want to download and install Java, for example. Download and install Java. And say that download and install Tomcat, right? And let's say that we might want to copy the WAR file, the application file from, Jenkins or any to the dev server, to the server, where it should be deployed. It is to be deployed, right? Now, this is the idea, right? Now, this is what you did. Means copying from one server to another server, whatever we did it. And along with that, let's say you also have to start the Tomcat process, right? Which is like, we did like a bash startup Tomcat, startup.sh something. Now, the question is that team, how much time did we took to finish all these tasks, right? How much time did we took team to finish all these tasks now before? So we took 30 minutes of time. Yes, Steve. Can we say that we took 30 minutes to finish all these tasks in a single server? If I given to you, you log into the server, first of all, then you start doing one by one task given to you, right? Approximate 30 minutes. Now, provided that I have given you the instructions, everything, you took that much time. So I have the instructions for installation of Java, downloading Tomcat, install Tomcat, how to copy it, how to start it. Assume that I have given instruction, but still you took 30 minutes, right? Now say that team in the real time, let's say we just installed only one server called a dev server. Now you may want to copy the same file again to the QA. You may want to copy the same again to the production. These are the different environments, we call it. The dev and QA, where you test your application, first of all, thoroughly to ensure that it is working. Now, once that is finally tested and certified, then you release into the market, nothing but a production server where the end customer is accessing the application, right? Now, remember team, again, in the real time, when we talk about the environment, it is not just one server. Let me tell you, environment team, we call it, is always going to be a group of servers. Now, when I say group of servers team, They can be two, nothing one team. We never use a single VM in the production environment. Because why we don't use a single server to run an application? Think about a team, the facebook.com, that will be available whenever you hit it. Like you wake up in the midnight, you hit facebook.com, that will load the page. Means that the websites are highly available 24 by 7, 365 days. Whenever you hit the URL, it always responding to you, right? The reason is that team, the approach is called making an application highly available, HA in short, we call it. Now, how do we make an application highly available in the real time is that by deploying the same application into multiple servers. Because team, remember, if I have a single server, right, a single laptop like you, right, and if your laptop is shut down, can you use any application within that one? Just a general scenario of talking it. You shut down your laptop and can you use any application within that server? No, right? So the idea is same thing, team. If I install the application on a single server, the web application in a single server, if that server is going down, then which means that your website will not be accessible, right? Remember what I'm trying to tell you? Simple idea. Say we installed the application on a dev server. Now I bring it down. Say I shut down my dev server, right? So technically, once I shut down my server, can I access the application? What do you think, team? It's I say if I go 8080 and a stamp that basically the URL will not be responding to you. Remember that. The scenario in the real time, if you just run in one server and then I stop the server, the URL will stop responding, which means your application gone down, right? Now, to avoid the situation, team, in the real time, we actually deploy the same application in multiple servers. You take multiple virtual machines like this, multiple virtual machines in the production environment, especially. The lower environments can be 1 or 2 VM team. But let's say that this application is running now in multiple production servers, so that one production server goes down, the other production server may be up and still can utilize the application by the customer. So that is a scenario team we talk it. That's the reason we say that an environment, these are the real-time words that you use in your projects team, remember? So try to remember all what I'm speaking here, right? So the environment is a group of servers. How many servers do I have in my production where I work? I have around 1,000 production servers, right? You may talking about a 3. Anything more than 1 will be good at team, but depends on the application type. Like remember, Facebook like application has a millions of users across the world. Now, can the Facebook application be running in 3 servers and take a request from all the, all the 10 million users? Maybe not possible, right? It is going to be messed up. So that is the reason, team, we increase the number of servers to handle the more request coming in. Right. So the understanding is that, team, the more number of servers, more number of users can use that application. Like Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they have millions of users. Whatever it is, in the behind, you have the necessary servers always to be up and running to ensure the application is highly available. So we may use n number of servers to run that particular application actually. So understanding here is that, team, now coming to that, for example, take a scenario. I want to have my application is so popular, and I would like to maintain 500 servers. For example, we have 500 servers, not 5,000, 500 servers in production. That is the question. So this is what the idea is. So we have 500 servers in production. Now the question is that I give you a task, right? Install Java Tomcat var, right? Start Tomcat on 500 servers. How much time would you need now? Yes, team, tell me, how much time do you need to do the above task? To do above task? Yes. If you do a manual way, like we did it, I'm telling it, like the manual way we did it. Now, how much time would it take? Technically, right? That is the idea. So the understanding is that team, if you do manual thing, remember, if we do manual way we did, it will take days. It will take days of time, and which is not a good practice to do that. Now, what do we do to achieve the task in a faster way? It's a good practice to automate, right? It's a good practice now, we call it, right? It's a good practice to automate all the tasks, right? Automate all the tasks, we call it. That is the idea. Remember, team, think about a bigger situation, bigger scenarios. As a DevOps engineer, you might be asked to do it, right, in the real time. This is what we are talking about, right? How to do the same task, above task technically. A good practice is to automate all of that task basically, right? If you do it manually, it will take days of time, team, which is may not be giving to you, right? The client may not allow you to do that much time. The clients does not give you that much time to set up a production, deploy an application to production in those many days. That is not going to happen, right? So we are in a world, team, where we are expecting everything to be done faster. So this is no way a solution. So this is where, team, I will introduce you now to the configuration management solution, right? Now, what we are talking about technically, we are giving an introduction to the configuration management, right? What is configuration management, team? Remember, I tell you in a simple way, not the technical definitions I'm trying to put so that you can understand it. A configuration management is all about, right, changing something on uh, on a server, you call it, or you may call it as a virtual machine, or you may call it as a computer, right? Or you may call it as a system in an automated way, right? In an automated way. That is what is configuration management. I am already sharing all of them in the Google Drive. Ganesh, try to look at them there. So remember, team, again, a configuration management is all about, right, changing something on a server or a computer or whatever you're calling it here, simple, right? Server, VM, computer system in an automated way. That is what is called configuration management. Now, again, let's not confuse here. Like we're talking about changing something. Now, what is this change called, right? It is all about changing something on a servers. Now, if I ask you like, what is a change in a simple way again? Now, what do you think it is, team? Anybody can define what is a change? Anyone would like to talk about a simple terminology like what is called a change in a computer? Modifying values, replace or add, installation of software, update. Thank you, team. Right. In a simple way, team, I'll see that any action, right? Any action that is performed, right, on a computer after you logged in a simple way again, right? You log into a server, you log into your computer, your own laptop, right? You do anything on it. Anything that you do after you log into a server is called as a change. For example, like you may create a file, modify a file, delete a file, maybe, right? That is called a change, right? So this is the idea. Remember, you may do with the same thing with the directories that is also there. Again, I'm talking about this one, team, here, like the examples, right? Create files. Now you may like stop a service, start a service, restart a service, a process, we call it a process or a service that is also thing. Or you may say that you install a software, right? Uninstall a software, upgrade a software. That is also called as a change in a simple word. Similar to that, we say we now just copying it, say deploy our right to production, or say that a Tomcat server means that, remember, today we deployed version 1. Tomorrow you might not reinstall the Tomcat, but you're going to copy the remove the version 1 war file and replace it with the new war file. Remember that every time rebuilding we get a new war file, isn't it? That is what you do. It's a deploy war to Tomcat server at a frequent interval. So anything that you are trying to do, right, anything that you are trying to do after you log in to a server can be considered as a change in a simple word, right? So this is the idea, T. Now, in a technical way, right, people call it as a technical terms, right? These changes can also be called as configuration change, right? Now you're understanding the terms, team, slowly. The configuration change, we call it, right? Some configuration got changed on your computer. This is the technical idea. You may keep it, right? Remember, the changes that you're implementing are also can be called as the configuration change in a way, right? So now once we set team, as we said, now, if I want to implement this change, now anything that you're going to install, I said, like if I want to install and install Tomcat on 500 servers now, this is what we do, right? If we have to implement, right, implement changes, remember team, if you want to implement changes in a couple of servers, right, we would be fine, right? We would be fine to do manually. Again, I'm repeating it. Remember, if you have to do the changes in a couple of servers, it is okay to do manually. But again, if we have to do the same thing, if we have to do in 500, take about any number of servers, it doesn't matter. It is not even recommended to do it in, a couple of servers. It is always better to follow the automation, right? So if you have to do in 500 servers, then what? It is that the answer will be configuration management. Remember, team, again, this is where the configuration management, we call it, right? A configuration management team, first of all, right, helps to automate the change implementation, right? Helps to automate the changes to be implemented on servers, to be implemented on servers, we call it. Remember, again, the configuration management is a solution that helps to automate the changes in this one, right? This is the idea, team. You may talk about it, idea. Now, remember, team, again, a configuration management is a process, right? Configuration management. There are many tools available. Again, remember, whenever we talk about automation, we need to do it. There are many config management solutions, right? I'm short. Config management tools we have in market. Remember that. In market, I call it. Examples, right? Now, the one which we're going to use in our course is called Ansible. But we do have something like Puppet, right? We do have Chef. You do have Salt, we call it. You do have something like a CF engine. You do have something called a Blade Logic, and so on. Now, there are many tools that comes in the market, team. Now, if you ask me about what is the current trend, current DevOps tool that we use widely in the market, then the answer is Ansible, right? Ansible is the one which is used widely in the market for the implementation of configuration management, right? A configuration management, again, team, is just about changing something on any server, and that has to follow as well something called as the change management process in any organization, I'm not touching the change management process. I think you might have heard about something like a change request, change order. Have you heard these words, team? Everyone? So whenever you implement any change in a production service team, that has to go through certain approvals, right? That is the idea, right? See, Chef was used. I can say that, yes. In before the Ansible in the market, the Chef was widely lead in the market. So there are many people who implemented Chef automations, everything. But Chef again comes with some licensing costing and everything to implement automation. So it goes a little higher. Whereas Ansible is something like a easily understandable and the, you know, easily implementable with latest technology. Ansible is having an open source as well as again the enterprise, but most of the people use the Ansible open source, which is capable of implementing all the automations at ease. Whatever you were doing with Chef can be done with this as well. So this is the idea. You will say that, okay, it is easy and it is open source. Mostly the people are preferring to use nowadays. Thank you. The CAB approval is required, which is change advisory board. Any changes to be implemented. There is just a process team. Remember that a change advisory board is something that goes through what changes are going in, and they have a tracking of all the changes implemented in the production. Now, this is the introduction to what is called configuration management and why a configuration management is required. So anybody having any questions now on this introduction to the config management, please let me know, we can talk. I hope now everyone is clear, understood what is this terms, what and why we use in the real time. Yes, everybody? Theoretical wise, we need to now implement this one. Now, the idea is that when we talk about the implementation of changes across n number of servers, how are we going to do again, right? So tell me some situation team here. Like the understanding is that when we talk about the configuration management or the solution implementation, we will have to sit at one place and implement changes on n servers. The best example that I will give you, that I'm speaking, like I'm sitting at my home and I'm talking to everybody sitting at your homes only, right? This is like one location from where I'm teaching and you're all able to learn. Now, this is all possible because of what? Don't say Zoom. Now, how we are able to communicate with each other sitting at everybody's respective homes? Yes, team, how we are all able to communicate here? Because of what? Internet or the network, you call it. So the network is the key for everything, team, in real time as well, that we can sit at one location and then we can control the things on different locations, correct or not? Can I say? We can sit in India and we can control something on US, something is like the server is in the AWS. I'm sitting at my home and I'm connecting to using the internet network. So network is the key team we're talking about. Now, there is one another example that I'll give you. For example, I hope everybody use your Windows laptop or the Mac laptop, right? Now, whenever there is a latest update to your Windows operating system in your personal laptops, right? Will Microsoft come to your home and update your OS? Think about the situation. Will the Microsoft employees coming to your home and updating your laptops? Or how did the updates are pushed into your laptop? How did the updates are happening in your laptop technically? If you connect to the internet, the Microsoft is checking your laptop. Okay, this is the Windows, whatever it is, basically using the internet. And then they are actually pushing that, right? Can I say that the Microsoft is pushing their latest Windows update into your server using a network sitting at their office, correct? So this Ansible or the configuration management is that idea team. Remember that somebody is sitting at one place and push all the changes to the remote servers. Remember, for the Microsoft organization, all your laptops are the remote servers, remote machines, remote servers Remote is something that when you're using the network, that is the idea. For me, the AWS VMs are the remote servers again, right? For us, the remote servers are this one, something this one. Not exactly the client server, but technically we may call that way as well. So this is the idea, team. You think about it. Yes, Ganesh, I'll give you the architecture and every idea. So think about it. So when we talk about any of the configuration management tool, the idea is that we implement changes by sitting at one location, right? We will set up or we will sit in one place and we will try to update the changes on all the remote servers with simple network idea, right? We push all of them using the network. There is maybe a pull like architectures we have it. So given this statement here now you all understood the basic idea about how do we update or how we actually can utilize the network to implement changes. Remember, if the Microsoft is pushing an update to your laptop, which means that a Microsoft is actually implementing a change on your server. Sometimes the updates are automatic, they're automatically updated, right? So that is the idea. So think about it, how we are also going to do that here in our case. This is just an introduction. Why? What is configuration management? Now, given the scenario team now, if you talk about the Ansible as a config management tool, how we can implement changes with this one, right? Now we discussed Ansible as configuration management, right? So I call this as the configuration management tool here. Now, let's discuss about something called as the Ansible architecture. Now, to implement a tool team, we always need to know about understanding the architecture of the Ansible or any tool technically. Now here team, as we talking about, we want to sit at one place and then we want to implement changes on n number of remote machines, remote servers. So consider that you have multiple remote servers like this. Consider this box. Each box is like a remote server here. Doing this one, second server, and say that this is the third, and say this is my fourth. And you have n number of remote servers technically, right? We call it as the remote servers. Now the remote servers team can be a Linux machine, remember that, right? Can be a Linux server, which can be like Ubuntu or CentOS, or it can be the Red Hat or whatever you do it. Sometimes whatever the type of Linux flavors we use in the real time. Now the target can be a Windows as well if you want it, right? Which means that the target machine can be a Windows server, we call it, with an Windows operating system. Doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter what type of an operating system you have on the target servers. So there can be multiple Linux, multiple, multiple Windows servers like this, and you have it. So assume that all these are the remote servers with such an operating system in it. And where we would like to implement some change means I need to log into the server manually and then install Java Tomcat. That is what we did so far in our case. But we're not talking about that situation now. We want to sit at one location, right? We say that we're going to take one server again. Remember, this is also something, team, whenever you're talking about utilizing a software, think about you need to have a computer, right? Remote servers as such, team, this can be the EC2 instances in your case, right? EC2 on AWS, you may call it, multiple EC2 on AWS. Now, I'm also talking about taking another server. This is also EC2 or a server or a VM, right? Now, one VM, we take it and then assume that it must be a Linux VM only, right? Say here, I'll talk again, the Ubuntu Linux. That's what we've been proceeding in our course. So let's stick to that. So assume that you have a machine with a Ubuntu Linux operating system installed, right? This is one VM, and we will install an Ansible software. Now on this VM team, we are talking about installing the software called install Ansible software. This is the technical idea. Just like you install the Jenkins, Java, Git so far, now we're going to install the Ansible software, right? So whichever the VM we install the Ansible software, you may call this as the Ansible controller in a general way. The technical terminology wise, we call the machine where you install the Ansible as the Ansible controller server, right? Because we will be executing an Ansible instruction that will automatically log into all the targets VMs in a parallel. That is the logical idea we are trying to implement. Okay. So any questions until this point here? Yes, Steve, any questions until this point here? Okay, so now once after you install the Ansible, right? Once after you install this Ansible, now we need to understand that instead of you log into this VM's remote servers manually, now I want my Ansible tool to log in, just like using a network options. Remember that you have the connectivity network, right? This is the idea. Now think about it. Ansible would like to log in, connect to this servers. So the idea is that remember the Microsoft is pushing to your server using the internet. Whenever you talk about the internet team, you talk about the protocol like HTTP or HTTPS, right? The browser, you see that the URLs normally, they communicate with the protocol like the HTTP or HTTPS. The URLs that are getting uploaded, anything on the internet works with a protocol like HTTP. Now, when we talking to a server team, remember what protocol are we using? Remember, team, the way you log in to the servers, how did we log in? How did we log in, team? Now we are using something called as an SSH. Remember, team, SSH is a protocol like HTTP or HTTPS, right? Now, in order to log in to the remote servers, remote Linux servers, we use SSH. Now, what is the protocol to log into a remote Windows machines, team? What is the protocol to log into a remote protocol? You know that, right? It is RDP. You might have used at least once the RDP application on your Windows machines, right? It is called the remote desktop protocol, right? So to connect to the Linux machines, we use SSH. To connect to the remote, Windows machines, we may use the RDP protocol to log in to the servers from your laptop to the remote servers. Now, why we are discussing is that the same protocol is now used by the Ansible, right? Remember that on the way Ansible uses the default, right, SSH or WinRM, we call it, in a way that is RDP team. Remember, RDP is nothing but remote desktop protocol. In Ansible, we call it as the WinRM, Windows Remote Management Protocol, right? So SSH protocol, right? Protocol to log in to remote servers. That is the simple idea. Remember again, team, this is very much necessary for you to understand. Ansible uses the default SSH or the WinRM protocol to log in to the remote VMs. That's what you need to keep in the mind. So when we use SSH, team, or when we use the Windows, what is that we provide? Authentication purposes. We use something called as the username and password, right? To log in again, right, we need credentials, right? Now, what credentials we use it? The technical is that we need a username and we need a password, correct? Correct or not? That's what we require, right? To log into your laptop, what do? You need a username and password. And in the place of a password here, we may also use something called as the SSH key based authentication. Whatever it is a username and password at the end. The username and password coming from an LDAP or a local server doesn't matter for me, right? At the end of the day, team, we need to log in order to get into a server. we need an authentication. The authentication is nothing but your username and a password. Or in the case of the Linux servers team, we may also use something called as SSH key. Now, what is SSH key? Nothing but what you're using team. This PEM file is nothing but your SSH key, we call it. Do I provide any password here in this line? Yes, team. Am I providing any password here? No, right? Not explicit password, you're typing it, but rather you're providing a key that is acting as a password, right? Remember, this key is something like the username here is Ubuntu that I'm providing it, and the password like he is providing is called PAM file. So technically, team, to log into a Linux machine or Windows machines, we may use the username, which is always required. And in the place of a password, you may use the default passwords, like you enter something manually password, or you may also utilize the key-based authentication, which can be used. And the same thing will be used as well. Remember, Ansible uses the default protocol, so it will also have to use this mechanism to log in. Remember again, Ansible will use the default protocols to log into the remote server. To log in, we must provide the username and password. Means instead of you typing in the username and password, we will give it to the Ansible. I'll show you practically, so don't get hurried. I'm just trying to make you understand the concept. So this is the idea. So this is the idea, team, that we are talking about. Now, once you install the Ansible software, now we understood that Ansible gonna use the default protocol, right? Default protocol that we did. So technically, team, since the Ansible is using the default protocol, remember that since Ansible, right, Ansible uses the default login protocol to log in to remote servers, right, and implement change, right, and implement changes. Now, this is the reason, team, remember that, right? We say that we will not install any Ansible related software on the remote servers. Remember, we will not install any Ansible related software on the remote server, and we do not need to do that as well. Now, because of which we say that Ansible, because of which we can say that, because of which Ansible is known as agentless architecture. Now, what do you mean by agentless architecture here? Understand, team, yesterday only we implemented Jenkins master agent concept. Yes? Did we implement Jenkins master agent concept yesterday? Now here, team, remember that under the JAgent home, we installed something called agent.jar file. Now this is the Jenkins agent software. Can I say that? Can we say this, team? This is what it is, right? We must have to, or we had to install the Jenkins agent file on my target server. Then only the Jenkins master was able to communicate with the agent to implement. So we are launching this agent. We are launching this agent process and communicating with master. So this is the reason, team, since we are not installing any Ansible, right, related software, right, will not install, right, any Ansible related software. This is the idea. Remember again, I'm just being very clear. So since Ansible is the default login protocol to log into remote server and implement changes, we will not install Ansible related software on any remote servers. And because of which Ansible is known as the agentless architecture. Keep this in mind. Don't forget, people may ask in the interview that why Ansible is known as the agentless architecture. So am I clear on why Ansible is called agentless architecture now? Understanding, team, everybody? Clear? Everyone? Am I clear? Okay, so now with this understanding, now you understood part of it. Now understand that to log in, we're using the protocol, but what else is required to log into a remote server now? What else is required to log into a remote server apart from the username and password or SSH key? We also need the target server IP address. Remember that? Like again, whenever you are actually logged into the remote server, username, protocol, password, and also the target server address, right? And the target server address is also necessary. Now, if it is a single server, I provide like this, but Ansible wants to log into all the remote servers parallelly. Then how do I do that? Yes. How do I do that? It will work with host names as well if they are resolvable, Ramakant. The only thing is that the target server address is what I'm telling it. The target server address can be IP, name, DNS name, anything can be there. Something like it is resolving to that IP again. So yes, team. So how do I provide that? Connect to the server node? No. So the idea is that team here, we will tell the Ansible about all the remote server addresses, right? Remember that in the Ansible controller or Ansible machine, we will prepare a file called as the inventory. Now, what is this inventory file? It is a plain text file. Remember, within this one, we will give the target one, IP1. You may use the names as well, team, if they are resolvable. Like you see that now we do it, IP3 and so on. Remember, team, now we are telling the Ansible controller, or we are preparing some plain text file in your controller machine, or we will have to prepare that, right? And then we say that use this file for reading the IP addresses, right? You may come back to me like, if different servers have a different IP, then what? We'll get an answer to that. Don't get hurry. I'll give you all the answers, but right now think about it. We will prepare an inventory file. Remember, we will have to prepare an inventory file in which you have to set the all target server IP addresses in which you would like to implement changes. Now assume that once we have set this particular thing, then we start running the Ansible command, just like you run the maven command, Java command, whatever we're doing it, we need to do that. Yes, of course, whenever there is a new server is added, you need to update the inventory file with the new name, new IP address, right? There is a concept of dynamic host file generation as well. We're not touching that. That's an advanced concept. So keep that for now. You must update the inventory file whenever there is a new server is created. This is the idea. I'm coming to that. Okay, just give me a second. So the idea here is that now once we set up this one, we say that the inventory file, like no just a text file, Raju, like you open a text file right on your system. This is a text file, right? You open it and you write it. It is not a command. We use that file in the Ansible command. Okay, now what I'll use here, that now once we prepare the inventory file, now we use or we execute an Ansible command on your machine like this. Say Ansible -- inventory. You give your inventory file name, say inv file, right? And then you use some text, say that you also provide change to be implemented, right? We give something. Assume that you have something like playbook, right? Or the script. Think about it. Ansible uses script to execute the changes. Script where you write the changes. I'll talk about how do you write the scripts as well. Then use the credentials, username -u, user name, right? -k, and then password. Or you may use the private key. That's your choice, we call it. So the idea here is that when we start you know, when we start executing or whenever we start running the Ansible command, we provide the inventory file. We provide a script in which write the set of instruction, what changes to be implemented. Now username and a password that you do it, right? So this is the commands team, we may use it, right? We may use to execute it. So Ansible will start implementing the changes, right? So in this scenario team, again, remember one another logic that you need to keep an idea is that here in this case, Ansible is pushing the changes. Remember, we execute a command on the Ansible controller. We need to execute a command on the Ansible controller. Now the Ansible is taking all the instructions in this script to the remote server and executing them here on behalf of you, right? So since we say that Ansible is pushing now, remember, Ansible is pushing those changes to the remote server. Ansible is also known as the push model architecture. Remember, the Ansible is pushing, Ansible controller will push a script onto the remote and execute the changes on the remote server, right? Now that is the reason Ansible is also known as the push model architecture, right? Unlike the Puppet, Chef, Salt, Blade Logic, they are called as the pull architecture. Now, what do you mean by pull architecture is that they use an agent on the VMs, right? So rest everything team, remember, advantage with Ansible is that because it is an agentless architecture. When it comes to the other config management tools like the Chef, Puppet, Salt, anything, they are the agent-based architecture, which means you must have to install an agent software on all the remote server. That will be a burden or the overhead on the remote servers always, right? The reason the Ansible is used in much because of this agentless architecture, leaving the target VMs clean and running only application codes, nothing related to the automations again. That is one idea you may call it. And it is also called as the push model architecture. Right, team? Is everyone clear now about this scenario? Any questions on the push model architecture and then how do we done this? How we can do this actually? Yes, team, any questions? Great. Now, one last thing, team, there is one prerequisite, right? One prerequisite, we call it, right? We already giving the push model architecture, Raju. That is what we're working with. Full model, there is a recording we'll share accordingly. Okay. So remember, team, one prerequisite, right? Prerequisite for Ansible to work on controller or remote servers. Now, can anybody tell me one prerequisite for Ansible to work on controller or the remote servers? We need to have a Python installed. Remember that we need to have a Python installed. That is mandatory, team. Remember that if you do not have a Python installed, then Ansible cannot work. So the understanding is that team, Ansible is a tool, right? Ansible is a tool developed using Python programming, right? So Python programming, you call it. So it has the prerequisite of the Python. So Ansible is, that is what I'm saying. So Ansible is a tool developed using the Python programming. So it requires, right? It requires the Python to be installed. Now on the controller machine team, remember that nowadays, right? Python is a default software with every OS, right? Whether it is the Linux or the Windows. Remember, means you don't need to explicitly install the Python, to be honest with you. Every operating system that you take in a virtual machine technically have a Python already installed. For example, you go and try to checking on this machine, we have it. It's not working. Okay. So this is our agent VM team. Let's say that if I do a Python, Now it says that maybe the Python 3 may be there because the latest is Python 3. Now you see that a Python 3 is already installed and you see that it is working. So technically, team, in any of the VMs nowadays, you get the Python defaults. You don't need to explicitly install the Python. But in case if you do not have a Python installed on any of the remote server, you must install the Python. That is mandatory. Okay. So keep that in mind, team. We don't need to install the Python, but if required, you have to install. Yes, correct, Ganesh. A Python is a prerequisite to work with Ansible on every Linux machine or a Windows machine on the target servers. Remember that on all the target server, you must have the Python installed. If you don't have a Python, then Ansible will fail. Whether it is the Windows machine, whether it is a Linux machine of any type, you must have the Python installed. Remember that. Okay. So this is the idea, team. By default, it is not there. It should be there by default. You have the Python 3, not Python. The latest version of the Python is the Python 3. The Python command may not work, but the Python 3 command will work, Ganesh and everybody. Okay. You have the Python 3 installed, and that is good enough. That's right. Python has been updated as the Python 3 to ensure you use the latest version of the Python always. So you have to use the Python 3 command, not Python. Python. No, you're typing the wrong name. Py, not Phy. It is the Py Python 3, not Phy. Okay, the command is Python 3. Okay. Right, so this is the idea, team. Now you got the basics, you got the basic understanding about this Ansible architecture, team, and this is to be discussed very clear. Again, I believe you all got some fair understanding here. So any questions on introduction to the configuration management and introduction to the Ansible and Ansible architecture? How does it work? Now we need to implement whatever we talked now to be practical. So we will implement it in a practical way in the next couple of sessions, and we will understand everything. Okay. So to do this one, team, what I would require all of you to do it. Now, remember, team, you don't need multiple VMs to be running like this. Once you're done with testing everything, ensure that you actually terminate them. Don't try to create too many servers. That will also, deviate your free tier policies. So I'm just keeping my Jenkins server running, but the other VMs like agent VM, dev server, I'm terminating them, which I don't require. Okay. So for Ansible working team, we're going to take 3 VMs, one as the Ansible controller, and 2 of them going to be the remote server 1 and remote server 2. So on this particular scenario here, I'm going to create the one. So I'll create 3 VMs. Now I will take them as this one. We will do that later, okay? But we will do that, okay? Not now. What is the controller? What are you following, Ganesh? What is controller here in this picture? What is controller here, Ganesh, in my picture? What is called controller here in my picture on the screen right now? That is what I'm saying. It just a VM where you install the Ansible software can be called as the Ansible controller because it is controlling every change done on the remote server. They named it as the Ansible controller. Simple. Okay. So again, team, the implementation of this particular thing. So I'm going to create 3 VMs with Ubuntu operating system only, the free tier change only, the T2 micro. That's right. The T2 micro and the key pair, I'll use the same, remember. And the network settings, use the same key pair for all these VMs, right? So the same key pair and do this thing. Now, remember team, we have the summary here. We are creating 3 VMs, right? And then the software or the OS we're using is Ubuntu. And the instance type is T2 micro. The firewall is iPad key security group. And the storage is default again. So launch instances. Now, once you launch these instances team, you will see there are 3 VMs that are getting created. Now I'll name them properly team so that you don't confuse it. So first one I'll be using as the Ansible controller, right? Where I will be installing the Ansible software. So we will call that machine as the Ansible controller. Now, a couple of them will be using them as a remote, right? VM1. And then say that the other one, I'll name it as the remote VM2. Okay. So this is the idea. So what we're trying to do to work with Ansible team, we are trying to install, or we are trying to create 3 VMs now new. You may want to work with Jenkins team and do it, but otherwise just keep it in a stopped mode like this, right? So again, let's try to visualize only the things. Did I stop the remote VM2 or something? I think the remote VM2 I stopped him. Okay, anyway, team. Now you see that there are 3 VMs which I created. With a specification, we've been following it from the day one. So I want all of you to do the same thing here, remember? Okay. So ensure that you also create a 3 VMs when you want to work with Ansible. Now I'm not showing anything except that the VM creation today. Just I want you to be ready by next Tuesday. I believe today is Friday. So we have a 3 days gap. Within the 3 days, everybody, please work with Jenkins, CI pipeline creation. And those who are not able to follow some Linux commands, I would recommend or request all of you to practice all the Linux commands which are shared on the Google Drive mandatorily so that you can follow. Otherwise, it will become difficult as we move forward with multiple other technologies, right? So Linux is the basic and Linux is mandatory. So with this one today, team, I'll stop. I'm not going to set up Ansible today, but I'll be showing how to set up Ansible, right? How to work with Ansible in the next week session. Okay. So any questions on this Ansible architecture and also about the Ansible configuration management, why it is and what it is required? Can we use VM1 that is already have as controller? If you want to use Upendra, you can use it. But remember, since you have only 1 GB of RAM, there is already a Jenkins running. Now, if you try to run Ansible commands as well, it may fail because of the resource constraint sometime. That is the reason I just created new. If you want to do that, you can do that. That's okay. But be aware of the risks you may face after that. So this is the idea team about everything. This is the Google Drive link. Everybody, again, I'm pasting it. Okay. So anyone having any questions, we can discuss. Otherwise, I would request all of you to share your feedback on this session again. How did we do? So those who have any questions, we can talk. Otherwise, those who wants to leave the session, they may leave. Thank you. And we'll see you on the next Tuesday again. Now depends on the code, right? What type of a code is it running, right? Okay. Is it a Node or a Java, or what kind of a code you're running, executing? So it depends, right? It depends on the programming, the changes have to be done. So you need to understand what type of a source code it is, develop using which programming language. You need to use the right tool set for that. So if you use Java, and then if you use a node and you try to execute with Java commands, it will not work, right? So try to understand the source code type first of all. Then based on that, you try to execute them from the Jenkins or directly run them accordingly. So when I creating EC2, the key pair name is Linux as the default. You might have created the key pair name. So anything is okay. The name of the file doesn't matter, Shweta, right? What is inside that file is matters. The name of the file can be anything. Okay to go with it. Okay. Somebody else. I need help to configure Jenkins global security. I'm not able to build. Please give me access to share my screen. Sure, Raju. Just give me a second, Raju. Where are you? Can you raise your hand, Raju? Are you out from the session already? No, you are there. Raju, I'm not able to give you the right. Are you joined from mobile or something or from your laptop? Wait a second. Oh, I'm not the host. Just give me a second. I'm not the host, guys. Just give me a second. Okay. No, wait a second. I'm not the host, so I'm not able to give you the permission. So let me chat with this host. IFC, can you give me the host access, please? I'm not sure if he's there. Just give me a second, guys. I'm going to call him. Can you share the screen now, Raju? Yeah, I was on the mute, Prathamesh. Raju, can you share your screen now? I'm stopping the share so you can share the screen. Raju, are you there? You declined. Why are you declining the promote panelist? You should be a panelist. You should be a panelist to share your screen, Raju. So accept the panelist, join as a panelist. I don't know. Is there anyone else, team, who wants to contact or talk to me now? Meanwhile, the Raju becomes, yeah, I think he.
Hello.
Yeah, Raju,
Yeah, so I'm sharing my screen.
please. Can you speak a little loud?
Sure, I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, tell me. I can see your screen, Raju.
Okay, just
So go to the Jenkins. Okay. Now, why it is failing? Can you show me the errors? Click on the compile, click on it, click on the build number, click on that, go to the console output. Let's see the error why it is failing. Wait, so it is executing something. Now it says that it is using the user share maven mvn compile. Now it says that the maven is not found in that installation, Raju. Now, can you log into the server and show me where you installed the maven?
There is showing this directory, so that's why I written there.
No, that's not the right directory, actually. Did you follow my instruction or you just followed some other instruction?
No, I followed your instruction.
Mhm. Okay, let's do something. Get back.
Where
Get
did
back.
I make a mistake? So
Wait. Get back to the VM terminal. So go to the cd opt, cd/opt, /opt, enter, and do ls-m. Now, where is the maven you install here? You didn't install the maven following my instruction. Okay. So anyway, let's also use that. So which maven, type it, wh-ch, wh-ch, mv or maven, type, maybe,
okay.
enter. Which mvn, replace the maven with mvn. And now you see that it says the user bin mvn. Can you take this path? Go to the console and then manage Jenkins. You may configure the global tool. Go to the last and then configure that. Maven, yeah. Change the path. It's not a directory, it says an issue directory. So technically it is not an executable we give it. So go back to the folder again. User share cd/user.
Sorry, come again.
cd, change directories, /usr /share, share, enter. Cd space maven, maybe. Maven, full word, maven. Enter. ls-l. Do ls command. ls-l. Okay, it is this directory, but it is not recognizing that, right? Because it is using something. Now, I'm not sure what instruction you have followed to install this, but can you follow my instruction? Because I need to redo everything here otherwise. So how did you install the maven, Raju?
I installed through your link.
No,
Given, then I followed that.
no, you didn't follow my instruction. If you followed my instruction, the maven should be under /opt. Okay, let's do one thing. Switch to the root user. Switch to the root user, sudo su hyphen. Maven is required to be installed on a server. Su space, Raju. Sudo su space. Enter. Do something apt space purge purge p for pot, and then space maven at the end.
What is
Enter.
it?
Enter.
What is
Yes.
purge?
Deleting the maven, uninstalling the maven now. The one you installed, you're uninstalling that maven. Okay. So now the maven is uninstalled. If you try to type the maven command, mvn-v, it won't work. Check it. So it says maven is not found. So don't follow this instruction now. Go to the page which I given on the GitHub and install the maven. You have the labs repo which I gave you. GitHub labs. The labs which we did. The repo which I gave you, not this one, labs, the practical things. There it is, labs, you have below samples I have. Yeah. Go to the Jenkins. Go to the install folder. Come down, come down, come down. Yeah. No, come down, come down. Manual installation step, install maven, there is right below. Not that one, not that one. Follow the manual steps. Install maven, right? Follow these instructions.
Okay.
Follow these instructions, then the path will be this /opt, like you can see in the recording as well, right? And then you can just go ahead and then start working with it. Okay.
Okay.
You got it, Raju?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
should, yeah. Try to finish that and you should be good without any issues. I think you need to update your repository. Go back. This is the old URL. You forked before I did it. Go back to the repo. Go to the top. This instruction I updated later, right? There is a sync fork option on the top. Sync fork below the add file button. There is a right side. Add file button. The below that there is a sync fork. Yeah, click on that. Update the branch. Now come below and then check it again. Jenkins, go to the Jenkins and check the instruction might have updated there because the version we did was older. Go to the install. Come down the manual. Arrow. Yeah, this one. The instruction is now updated, as you can see that. Okay, just try that one by one. It should be good for you. Okay.
Okay.
Follow the rest instructions. It will be good for you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I see it is like you share it. Fit to window, request control, I suppose screen. So thank you, team. Thank you all. Have a great weekend ahead, and I'll see you on the next week. Until then, please practice. Take care.